So we've looked at using examples in order to go from a single moment of disturbance, and a lot of those examples start off being many moments of disturbance that we narrow down to one representation of it, in order to work out what's our entry level, which mechanism is it. If it's child mechanism, you're already there. If it's adolescent, adult, self-distraction, self-medication, that tells you where you're going to end up. So you go from wherever you land back to child mechanism, where that got internalized, where that ends up. And then we looked at how you're going to intervene with that so that the adult part of the person is able to begin a relationship with the child parts, reptilian brain and expression well-being, so that it's made clear what wasn't clear at the time, that this is essential in early childhood and not essential afterwards. So you're bringing an adult into relationship with the child parts, but you need to know exactly which those child parts are. Fight, flight, expressive sadness, and meet each of those needs. You have to be able to work with the protection survival part, have those parts realize that it's not a life-threatening situation anymore, and have the adult be the one who decides what's a life-threatening situation and what isn't, because 99.9% of the time it's not a life-threatening situation. But the reptilian brain is thinking it is making the person feel, making them feel overwhelmed, having them go, no, you can't do that. Makes sense in early childhood, doesn't make sense in present moment context. And the disturbance is what's the healing trying to happen. Forcing our attention on that which needs healing. All we're doing with healing in a conflict is bringing the healing required, so that once you've worked with it when you're not triggered, you can begin to work with it when you are triggered. How that process goes usually is not noticing it until it's done. And you've got triggered and you didn't say what you wanted to say, or you got triggered and you shouted at the person you love most in the world. And then going, oh my God, I got triggered. Oh, I need to do some inner work. I need to work with these parts. Now, once you've already worked with them, then you can go back to the usual suspects. And you can do that after it's happened. Then, of course, once you've done that work and gone, oh, okay, yes, it's a long habit. We've had that for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and sometimes working with an 88-year-old, 80 years. Then you know that this is stuff that's not going to change overnight. And all you're doing is slowly over time getting it from noticing it afterwards to noticing it just afterwards, to noticing at the end of it and being able to do something about it, to noticing it in the middle of it and do something about it. Often when it's happening in the middle of it, you might need to run to the toilet or the veranda or the shed or the car to get out of the triggered situation. Do what you need to do to come back to adult, associated and sensitive perspective, and then bring the relationship to the child parts that got triggered. Later on, once you've done that enough, you'll be able to do it during. And eventually you'll start to notice it at the beginning so that you can either leave and work on it or actually work on it while you're still there when you get good at it. And eventually, it doesn't take that long. If you work at it, like, I don't know, if you do a piece of inner work and then practice that for, say, anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks, you'll get to noticing it before it happens, being able to work with it internally and not doing the same stuff. Not having these parts, these child parts taking over the adult body and making it do stuff that you regret. So hopefully you're getting a sense that there's no magic cure, there's no aha moment, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. In the same way that you get one body and you're not getting another one, you get this entry into the world and you're not getting another one. This sort of training, you're not getting another one. There's just the ability to intervene so that that evolution in the single lifetime can happen, which is what's trying to happen with the disturbance. Child part's going, we still think the war's on, is it? And it requires an adult in the present moment to go, oh yeah, we're not dependent on anyone. We can get out of harm's way. We can grieve what we can't change on the planet. And then you notice the disturbances, the trigger is still there, but it doesn't take you over. So it's getting down to 5 or 10%, and it's not as intense as it was. But it's all just practice. When you do this work internally, you are beginning a relationship with these parts. So you want to practice this relationship, continue this relationship. Once you've done a piece of work, and once you've worked with someone, you want to be getting them to check in with those parts in the morning, before they get out of bed. And literally checking in with those parts and going, what's going to happen today that might be triggering for you? So for example, if it's to do with singing or someone shouting at you, what do you need to do to be ahead of the game? What are you worried about bringing in the adult who can do it differently? Oh, I can get out of harm's way if someone's shouting at me. I can get out of harm's way if someone's going to criticize the way I sing. I can be sad about someone shouting at me. I can be sad about someone not liking the way I sing. Doing the healing that says, yeah, you had to stop doing that when you were a kid because that was essential at the time, but not necessary now. Now you can see that, as with any relationship, one single interaction is not going to do much. But checking in every morning, what's going to trigger you today, being ahead of that game, which gives you more likelihood of noticing while it's happening, or even at the beginning, or even before. And then checking in at night again with these child parts that are literally like having kids on your hip and going, what are you going to be afraid of? And then going, how did we go today? Did I intervene? Did I turn up when you were disturbed? And how well did we get to the point that you weren't taking over my body, that your needs were met? And if not, how can I do better tomorrow? So that there's the best accolade you can get in healing in a conflict is to realize that you're a work in progress. That's it. And when you hear a work in progress, you want to hear evolution, a work in progress. There's a joke that apparently God is alive and well and working on a less ambitious project. But in terms of evolution, you have your own experience that knows when you look at the stars, you're not going good star, bad star. When you go into a rainforest, you're not going good tree, bad tree. And so I want to talk a little bit about choice and choicelessness, because this is key to understanding how the nuts and bolts of healing in a conflict allows you and your client to completely understand what's going on by understanding more than one context. In the same way that we begin to understand more than one context, which is the little picture, what's happening now, how dare this person be in my way when I'm running late, and the big context, which is before a universe before a planet before a species before you, and what's in that process. whereby you know that you are the best version of you in your line from amoebas through cavemen, Middle Ages to now. Of course, you look in the mirror and go, yeah, but this is too much this, not enough that. Lots of opinions about how you're meant to be based on just the accident of your birth, the era of your birth, what people were thinking at the time about what's good and bad and right and wrong in a particular culture. Some cultures, big is great, small is useless. Some cultures, small is fabulous, big is terrible. And it's absolutely accident of birth. So we want to be able to see the little picture and the big picture at the same time. When we're triggered, we're only seeing the little picture. So that's why the cards face each other. When you're triggered, there's just dissociation and what's behind it and the way of reptilian brain going nuts, thinking we're going down, doing all sorts of things or not doing all sorts of things that we regret. Then there's the ability after the fact, with a little bit of help from you, to be able to look at that from a not triggered perspective and go, well, yeah, was it really life-threatening? No. Was it sensitive? No. Oh, where did it come from? Training. Oh. So that is the second perspective. This is the much bigger perspective. And I want to just elaborate on that from the point of view of not something abstract, but actually from your own experience. This experience of looking at the stars and going, wow. What is it about that that's wow? And the truth is, it's an experience. There's just a sense that this is amazing and I couldn't make this. So there's a relationship to the process of evolution that's a big picture experience of, and this is where words are difficult because we'd say things like perfection, but it's just enough to go, wow, I couldn't do this. And there's a sense of totality or oneness that's the same as the oneness of the one being, in the same way that when we go into a rainforest, there's just the sense of wow, and we're not looking at it from the point of view of, gee, there's a lot of untidiness here, this tree's really out of, there's just life, death, order, chaos, and our experience of it is, I couldn't make one of these, and it's beyond my comprehension. But there's an experience of, this is amazing, this is perfect, and if you look at or notice your own experience of the universe and the planet, and any photo of Gaia or the planet since the 60s, of our ability to go out of the planet and look back at the planet that just happens to match where we began to be self-conscious in a way that became critical mass. It's not that the odd person hasn't had self-consciousness, the odd avatar, the odd Jesus, the odd Buddha, the odd person hasn't had it. But since then, our ability to self-reflect has become exponential, which is why we can have a masterclass in 2021 about this stuff with this sort of technology that wasn't there 60 years ago and definitely wasn't anywhere near it 120 years ago. And this is once again just accident of birth. I'd love to say, yes, this is because of me. I have chosen to do all this, which is absolutely not accurate. This is because I happen to be born at a particular time and happen to be pushed in this direction by clients going, you have to help us and no one else is around and it's a small town, so And me going, pick someone else, and them going, well, there isn't anyone else, you have to learn about it, and me getting dragged into it. And it turns out I helped them and they helped me. They showed me exactly how this stuff worked. I did not make this shit up. I was just shown it time and time again every single day until it became really, really clear that this is a process trying to happen, that there's nothing going wrong, there's only things trying to go right, that the process of evolution is happening with us as a species and an individual in exactly the same way. And the only difference is our ability to notice it that way. So I want to talk about how, when you begin to have a second perspective, when you begin to have an ability to observe your own process, when you can understand it, this very interesting thing happens, which is compassion comes for free. So, the reason why it's so important, and I do this usually in a first session, and the first session is a couple of hours usually, where the client tells me what they need for an hour and we get it down to what are the behaviours, what do they need to be able to do, so that it's clear to them what they're not able to do, but what it is that they can do. And of course that means going from the external to the internal, because initially they'll go, well, I want my wife to change, I want my child to change, and I'll go, what do you need to be able to do without them changing? Because we all have what we want the universe to do, or the planet to do, or how much money, or how many cars, or how much sex, or much food, as opposed to what our relationship to that is, our ability to grieve what we can't change. Then we start looking at, okay, how do we get the person to understand the context in which this is happening? And of course, they need to understand two contexts. They need to understand the little picture, this is driving me nuts, because you have to follow their primary process. You can't just say, well, it's all just healing trying to happen, because they'll kick you in the nuts. You have to work with what their disturbance is and go, yes, we can help you with that. Then get them to see the difference between choice and choicelessness. To see this as part of a continuum as opposed to, well, everything's just going wrong. So you have to be able to go into a relationship with their perspective, which is, yeah, it looks like it's going wrong. And once you've got into their position and held their hand, then just bring them around to see the bigger picture that everybody actually has an experience of, and start to get them to think about all of the things in their life that are non-choiceful. So this is why I call it choice and choicelessness. For example, here we're noticing that we're wearing pants and shirts and dresses and things, which is choice. And the girl's hair is a particular way and the boy's hair is a particular way. And it's very cultural. We're saying, well, it's choice, but let's look at the little tiny paper bag that choice actually is to see how much of a choice it is. If you look at your accident of birth, what you were born into, what was normal and comfortable, what shops are around you, what media is around you that has you going, well, this is what I feel comfortable with. So in the extreme, what I mean by that is there's a reason why we're not wearing kimonos and kaftans. Now can you see that it's a very tiny choice? It's a choice, but within a tiny paper bag called whatever we've been brought up to feel comfortable with. Is that clear? So then there's everything else. Starting off with, did you choose to speak English or whatever your mother tongue was? And of course the answer is no. Did you choose this body? No. A child learns a language in about 2 years. Interesting for the adults listening, try learning a language in 2 years now. And the reason for that is that a child's brain has twice the amount of brain cells in that first period of time. Guess why? Because it wants to live and it's got to learn quickly before they kill you or abandon you. Then once you've got through that stage, half of them atrophy, which is why you can learn a language in 2 years then and you can't now. So it's important to understand what that means, particularly for the dependent stage of childhood, and why it is that this stuff follows us, which is that when the child is learning, they're not learning out of choice, it's just they're picking up everything by osmosis. So let's go with language of communication that we're talking about that takes 2 years. The child's not choosing it. Someone listening to me is like, if your mother tongue is English, when you go to talk, English falls out. It's not a choice. You have to learn another language, then you have to make yourself say that when you're in a different country. But that's not the only language that you're learning. In that first 2 years, you are learning every other language. You are learning the language of emotionality, the language of relationality, the language of conflict, and every other language. And you have zero choice in that, which is why you can learn later on how you're meant to be, which is all very dissociated adult. What you're told, what you see, what your moral code is, that this is how I'm meant to be. Then there's what's put in your back room. And this is very tricky because there's two sides to it. There's what your parents tell you and what your teachers and preachers tell you, and then there's what they do, because you're picking up not just their shop front of, yeah, don't smoke, and then behind they're smoking. You're picking up what's in their back room, which is all of the stuff that they're trying to protect you from, but that you're picking up anyway, which is why your signals later on are going to have mismatches, which is what we're going to follow. But we're going to do much more on signals in following modules. So the child doesn't choose any of that, but it pops out later on, and that's what's knocking on the door in present moment adult context. Doesn't make sense. And if that's all you can see, you'll go, oh, that's wrong, let's get rid of that. And you'll get drugs that'll make that go numb or make it disappear. But it's not going to do any healing trying to happen, which is why healing in a conflict is completely holistic. Now, there are lots of other ways of working, and a lot of them are behavioral. And if all the time and money that you've got is to just get rid of that, then that's a good idea. But if you want to deal with it sustainably, you have to work with where it's coming from. And that's what we're trying to do. And the first thing is to notice we don't choose any of this stuff. That's really important later on when you're working with someone, so that in a really short period of time you can help them understand why parts are doing it, not because they're crazy, not because they're bad or evil. Because as soon as they understand it, there's this really interesting thing that says, you get compassion for free. As soon as you understand it, and you'd know this from people you know, who you've gone, and then you find out why they're like that, and all of a sudden you go, oh, you know what I'm talking about? That's where the compassion comes for free, but only if you have the understanding. You can't get compassion leapfrogging. Oh, I'm going to be compassionate to this person. No, you have to have the understanding. And the same is true inside ourselves, and the same is true when you begin to understand the stuff of non-choicefulness, and you understand that within yourself, and there's a tiny part of you that's learning the stuff and going, oh, I see, I'm just a work in progress. I'm part of an evolutionary process. I didn't choose any of this. And I have the ability now to intervene with it. Then you're going to know that, of course, the same is true for everybody else. And there's just disturbing behaviour and training that you don't know about yet. So we'll do some more examples of how to go from the moment to the 4 mechanisms and how to intervene. So make sure you've got your examples ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to throw out some examples. You're going to tell me what mechanism it is. And remember, no one's going to get criticised, but you want to notice the parts of you that have that stuff running around it. Just to go, oh, that must be a child part of me going, oh, trying to protect you from criticism, which of course isn't accurate in this arena. Yes? Okay, so there's a wife screaming at her husband. Which mechanism? Adolescent. Very good. There is someone watching their 5th episode of something on Netflix. Very good. Okay, there's someone who just cannot get out of bed in the morning. Ooh. Well, we've covered them all. Okay, I'm going to get you to explain any one of them because it's actually not about getting the right answer. It's about noticing what you're thinking and then following it.
So my take on that with the not getting out of bed was that using sleep or the bed as self-soothing, I guess. So it's a distraction.
Which would be self-distraction if that was what was going on. So definitely could be that. Who had something else?
Like a child.
Yes, and what could it be? Because remember, we haven't got the person there. I'm just telling you, and I'm doing it from me, so I can tell you which one it is. But it definitely could be that one. There's definitely been times when I've done that. Well, I've just gone, I don't want to get up.
Isn't it an internal override? Because it's overriding
The desire to get up. Yeah.
Whatever.
Part of me is going, come on, time to get up. Another part of me goes, I don't want to get up. Internal criticism. Do you follow? But it absolutely could be both, and probably is at different times. Someone said something else. So someone said adolescent. Yeah. Anyway, can't be adolescent because it's not external.
It could be the adult being passive aggressive, depending on the context.
Yeah,
The
I
husband
could
wants
be.
something,
I could be.
and you're just getting back
I
at
could.
that
I could be. You know, it's like my darling wife could be saying, "Would you like a cup of tea, darling? Come and share tea with me." I hate you. I'm not getting up. No. And that's passive aggression. It's not external, so definitely could be that too. So do you see what I mean about never mind the right answer, because you just want to know how to follow from whatever it is, because only when you're working with the person and only when you're working with the 1 nanosecond of time are you going to be able to nail this stuff.
It could be adolescent if the person is saying, I am not getting out of bed, I'm staying here all day long.
That's right. Fuck you.
I wasn't going to say that.
No, that's the first time I've sworn all day. Screw you. And very good, yeah, if they were doing that.
Something happening in the day they don't want to face.
Exactly. In which case it would be?
Running away.
Well, yeah, but which mechanism is it?
Child.
Yes, perfect. You guys are getting it.